I had thought about going back to methadone when I first came out of treatment, and it was between Suboxone or methadone. And I had been on methadone before, and you're right, it took me a month to recover. I had withdrawals for a month, and then it took me a whole nother month just to recover from that. And
Right.
for about 6 months, I still didn't feel myself.
I'm Flindt Andersen, founder of Pain, Parents and Addicts in Need. I've been in recovery since 2001, and there isn't much I don't know about recovery. And my mission is to constantly tell the truth about addiction, to make the realities of addiction, recovery, and drug culture known, and to drive awareness and advocate change that ultimately saves lives.
And I'm Jason LaChance, a certified recovery coach with a passion for speaking with others and sharing their knowledge to help others seek recovery and maintain long-term sobriety. And this is the Don't Hide the Scars podcast, presented by Pain, Parents and Addicts in Need. Mr. Andersen, we're joined today by a guest who, in his recovery, is using the gift of music that had come into his life to not only help his recovery, but be a service to others. Josh Villarreal, thank you for joining the founder of Pain, Mr. Flindt Andersen, and myself on Don't Hide the Scars.
Hello.
Hey, Josh. Hey, glad to have you with us, man.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reaching out. I know you caught some of our episodes, and we've really shifted gears and wanting to help people understand different things about addiction and, you being so transparent about it. I don't think people really understand fentanyl from the user's standpoint. And I mean, you were you lost your brother to it, and you personally were at your wit's end to the point of, looking to take your own life. Can you kind of just take us into it, maybe some of the misconceptions of what you're hearing and seeing from people out there when they speak about fentanyl, let alone the crisis that is going on?
Well, I have a really big gripe with people who are more on the, I don't have a gripe with conservative people. I just have a gripe with people that are usually on the conservative side that say, that person's a drug addict, they're a scumbag, they're a piece of, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
They're a piece of shit, they deserve to be in jail. I got started on opiates from an injury when I was just a kid, literally like 12 years old. I had a herniated disc, and it was pretty bad. And they started me off with, like a really heavy dose of hydrocodone, and that wasn't working, and I kept complaining. So by the time, I had gotten to full capacity, they had me on oxycodone. But my parents got a really messy divorce, my mom and stepdad, and he just cut us off completely. No insurance, so no doctor visits, no prescription. And all of a sudden one day I was really sick, and it just happened to be at a friend's house who was a drug user, and he identified what was going on and kind of explained that what I was taking was the equivalent to heroin. And so he made a call. This is maybe I was 13, 14. He made a call, brought somebody over who did not have prescription opiates, but had, what is called China White.
Yep.
And he got me well. And when I realized, okay, so now I have a connection, and I don't have to wait 30 days for this to get filled. If, the doctor, if my prescription runs out, or if I take extra, I don't have to call and try to get another script filled. So that was convenient. And he said, oh yeah, and this stuff's way better on your liver too, because there's no acetaminophen. But I remember I took I snorted just one line, and I immediately felt better within 2 minutes, and just said to myself out loud, I'm in big trouble. I knew right away I was definitely going to be hooked long-term on this. I loved the feeling. So anyway, fast forward years and years and years of using an addiction and everything else you can imagine. I'll just get to the end. I've been, had been locked up. I had been in detox clinics. I had been to the hospital. I had been in psych wards, pretty much everywhere you can be for, drugs and things of that sort. And I was doing a lot of the illegal things, shall we say, to supply my drug habit, because, working just wasn't an option. It was too inconvenient. And I got out. The last correctional facility I was at was it was a corrections-based sort of treatment facility. It was called SMART, which stood for Self-Management and Recovery Training. It's basically you're in like jail, like a jail environment, a prison environment, if you will. And but you have to program every day, all day. And
Right.
so I get out of there. I hadn't seen my brother in a while. I knew he was struggling with his addiction. I was clean for a good, 6 months because I'd been locked up. And it took maybe a week and I relapsed and just went right back to my old ways. And him and I had a very different style of living. So I enjoyed living in and out of hotels, sometimes luxury hotels, sometimes like seedy, shitty,
Right. Right.
hotels. It all depended on what we call it, a lick or a come up, what kind of lick or come up I had that day. The most money I ever made in one day was 10 grand. And I immediately got uh, a very, very nice room at the Fairmont downtown in Austin. And I didn't want to, anyway, I get this room and I have all these drugs in the room and I have guns and I have all manner of illegal, materials and paraphernalia. And I invite a bunch of people over and I fell asleep and I woke up and all the money was gone. And I just kind of, I like, I was so comfortable with that happening. I knew I was going to be robbed when I fell asleep, but I was so lonely and like broken inside that I invited people over who I knew would steal from me just to keep me company. And I didn't even enjoy talking to them. When they talked to me, it made me feel sick. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to hear what they had to say because as far as I was concerned, it wasn't interesting or appealing. Not to be arrogant or whatever. I just didn't want to hear.
No, it's the same bullshit
Yeah,
that we
it is.
dealt
Yeah,
with. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that addict talk,
Yep.
Me primarily an alcoholic and being out at the bar, and in retrospect, conversations that I'll never recall, never had any value, is all stupid ego-based bullshit. So,
Yep.
that's it. So say it, because that's the reality of it. Like, there's no worthwhile conversation in there.
Right.
But it was funny to me too, because I can't, like, I don't want to go too much into detail with regard to who I was doing what with, but like, I will
Yeah.
say, like, the people that were, really doing big things with the drug trade and all that sort of thing, they didn't want to go to luxury hotels to see me because as far as they were concerned, I was bringing heat on myself, I was being
Mm-hmm.
flashy. And then I was
Mm-hmm.
bringing homeless people who I knew were junkies who I just happen to know in one way or the other, and prostitutes over just to keep me company. And so like it was just a very strange scene. But anyway, fast forward, I'm at my brother's now, and he's already got some trepidation about having me over because he knows how I live. It's pretty reckless and rebellious. And he's talks to me, he goes, you had a record deal, like you were doing things. You owned a recording studio, you had all these things that I've always wanted. What's the problem? And I just looked at him and I knew he was using, but he was lying to me. And I go, what's the problem with you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. So that was a weird conversation we have. Anyway, a couple weeks goes by. I've already relapsed. Things are getting out of control. I'm showing up with guns, and I showed up one day. I had purchased 5 iMac computers, and I purchased them through illegal means, shall we say? And he just freaked out and he was like, you're blowing my spot up and you're going to get the cops over here. And I don't even know where the stuff came from, but I just want it out of here. So then he takes my key from me, the key that he let me use to get in and out. He said, from now on, I'll let you in and you got to be home at a certain time because I'm not dealing with this anymore. So a couple days goes by. Like I said, I knew my brother was using, but I was just kind of doing my own thing, not worried about it. Well, I come home one night at the curfew time, as it were, and he's not there. And so I'm waiting. I wait about a half hour and I get all upset and I call him. He doesn't answer. Wait another half hour. He doesn't answer. So after about 4 or 5 hours of sitting there, mind you, I was high as a kite. So
Sure.
the time seemed to pass very quickly and very slowly at the same time in all the best ways. And I looked at my phone and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I called. I was very upset. I left and went to a friend's house, came back the next day, and he's still not there. So at this point, I'm raging. I kicked the door down, and like he calls me maybe 20 minutes later and goes, hey, sorry, man, I went out of town last night. Hope you're okay. Hope you had a place to stay. And I go, I got into the apartment. He goes, how? And I go, oh, I'm clever like that. He goes, okay. Like I can tell he's worried. So he comes home and he's pissed. He's not happy at all. And I say, listen, I got to go. You left me outside with nowhere to go, no vehicle. Like, I had to do what I had to do. I'll fix it. I'll pay for it to get fixed. Give me like an hour. I'll go get the money. I come back with the money and I have like a wad of cash in my hand. And he's just like, I can't do this. Like, you can't stay here. And we get into this big fight, like really big fight. We're yelling and screaming and swearing at each other. And I just look at him. He goes, I mean, you're a drug addict and your life is completely out of control and blah, blah, blah. And I go, dude, you're a drug addict too. Like, who are you to lecture me? And he looks at me and he just kind of confesses. He goes, I am. You're right. I am. But at least I have a job and a place of my own and a car and a means to survive in, as an upstanding member of society. And I go, listen, you live completely and totally fucking miserable. Like, if I had your life, I would kill myself. Like, it's worthless. You get up every day to go to a job you can't stand. You're unhappy in your personal life. You're not doing anything. I stay at luxury hotels. Sometimes I stay at shitbag motels, but then I stay at luxury motels. I hang out with whoever I want. I do whatever I want. I don't answer to anybody. I don't have to live miserably and depressed, and I can get high whenever I want. I always have drugs. You have been sick a couple of times since I've been here, and I could tell that. I go, you have no furniture, so you're clearly pawning everything. Like, give me a break. So he kind of looks at me like with the sort of sadness and embarrassment, but I look at him like I feel bad, but I'm too angry and too ego driven to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets mad and we're about to go to blows. Now, my brother was a bodybuilder and he was a lot bigger than me. He was younger than me. He was my little big brother. He was a lot bigger. So I'm like, okay, well, if we fight, I can handle myself, but I'm nervous about it. So I pull out a pair of knuckle dusters, brass knuckles. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And he looks at me like, oh shit, I don't want to get hit with those. So he goes, just get out of here, please. If you love me as your brother, like, just leave. And I go, you know what? Fuck you. Go fuck yourself and fucking die. So I packed my shit. That was the last thing I ever said to my brother. And then 2 weeks later, I hate telling this story, but it's for context. Anyway, 2 weeks later, I'm in this abandoned apartment selling whatever I was selling to whoever. And someone walks up to me and they go, where have you been? Just somebody I knew from the streets, but they're like, everybody's been looking for you. I've been looking for you. I've been calling you. Said I've been busy. What do you need? And he goes, dude, your brother passed away. And he didn't know my brother, so I said, get the fuck out of here, dude. What brother? What's his name? He goes, his name's Jonas, right? And I just looked at him and yeah, I sunk. I fell to my knees. I started crying. Are you sure? Are you sure? And I went crazy. I went nuts. I immediately got up. I left where I was, packed everything I had into a vehicle that I was using, a friend let me use. And yeah, just went on a rampage, just doing anything and everything. I didn't care. Like, I wanted to either die or get locked up so that I could be just safe, and I felt so bad. And people were calling me and texting me about the funeral. And I said to myself, I can't go because if I go high, that'd be disrespectful. And if I go dope sick, like, I'll make a spectacle, and I just don't want to do that. And I didn't really want to see my brother in a box anyway. So the thing that really sucks is I was clean and he wasn't. If I'd have kept it together, and just stayed sober. I mean, I had 6 months when I got out and just kind of tried to help him, be of service to him, and maybe he'd still be.
But Josh, listen, man, look, that's you can't get into the ifs. Yeah. Okay. You can't get into the if I did this or if I did that or what would have happened. Again, if it's there's sometimes there's just no explanation.
Mhm.
It's just that simple. Sometimes there is no explanation. Sometimes we don't know the reasons why. That's part of the mystery of addiction also. How many times have all of us asked ourselves, if I only stayed, I had 6 months in, why couldn't I have done it 7 months or 8 months or 9 months or 10 months? I can't tell you how many times I relapsed during the course of my using. And I had to learn a long time ago, because of the damage that I caused, that sometimes we gotta let that go. I know this is a lot more serious than, I mean, losing a brother. I can't imagine that. I simply can't imagine it. I would never put myself in your position, or even try to compare anything in that. All I can do is give you a little bit of encouragement and some I guess, for the lack of a better term, some life lessons on mistakes that we make, and how seriously.
New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised, top-quality care with programs for detox, inpatient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living, support groups, and more. With 50-plus years of combined experience and sobriety, Flindt, Andersen, and Thelma Gatlin Wilson provide adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect, and a safe, comfortable environment. To begin the process of recovery, to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction, call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
What you can do now is you can honor your brother. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I've tried to, I've done that.
Good.
It's still one of those things. And I've made amends with myself and with him spiritually. And I've taken my inventory. I've taken the steps, but it's still there. So, and this is what was really going on when what happened next happened. So I have this moment this one day, and I'm just done. I'm over everything. I don't care anymore. I didn't go to my brother's funeral. I blew my music career. I flushed it down the toilet. I signed custody of my son over to my mom because it was just more convenient, because I wanted to be a drug addict and I didn't want him to, I said that to myself, but really I just wanted him out of the way. He was in my way at that time, as far as I was concerned. And a lot of people say they lost everything to drugs, but I didn't lose anything. I gave it all away, like happily, willingly, with no qualms. So I just kind of took a look at my life at that moment. So, this is what my life is. This is what I've become, So I had it in my mind that I had this high point 380 was the gun. And I was going to shoot myself with it, but I'm sitting in the car this one, late night, maybe it was like 4 a.m. So, and I'm like, well, I can't die sober. So I do one more big hit of heroin, and I want it to really count because, like I said, I don't want to die sober. And if the gunshot doesn't kill me by some miracle, I at least want to overdose.
Mm-hmm. So
I fixed up a big, huge hit of heroin and meth, and I was getting ready. I had the gun cocked ready, and the thing about high points is they jam real easily and they go off mysteriously. They're very crappy guns. And I got so high. I shouldn't be laughing, but just the image, thinking about it. I got so high that I sort of was going to shoot myself, and I fell forward, like almost passed out, and the gun went off, and I don't even think I had my finger on the trigger yet, but it just went off mysteriously and miraculously right past I have a scar on my ear. Actually, you can't see it now, but like there's a big old, scar on my ear from where it just sort of whizzed past. I guess it maybe burned me. I don't know, but it goes off, and I freak out, and I'm like, okay, I changed my mind. I don't want to do that anymore. And I guess the shock, the adrenaline, the having not slept for a week, and the hit of heroin and meth and everything else just kind of all hit me at once, because I immediately passed out right after that. I remember I just went face forward. So the next thing I know, it's morning, and I hear, sir, can you open the door, please? And I'm like, oh no, here we go. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, I was about to just kill myself anyway. So They open the car and I go, I have a gun, I have drugs, I have merchandise that is illegal. I've been doing illegal things, and I would really like you to take me to jail. I would like to go back to prison. I just can't do this anymore. Just take me now. I'm telling you right now, there are weapons in this car. And the cop is like, okay. And he immediately grabs me, of course, for safety and cuffs me. He's looking around the car. There's an ounce of heroin, there's a half ounce of meth, and there's, two guns. And he's he was like, he looks at his partner, he was right. He was telling the truth. And he goes, what the hell were you doing out here? And I go, I was trying to kill myself. I mean, before that, I was being reckless and being a criminal, but just now I was trying to kill myself. And he goes, why? And I said, because I'm a lonely, empty, destitute junkie who had it all and flushed it down the toilet. And this is actually true. I just got stabbed like 4 weeks ago by somebody who was supposed to be my friend, but was trying to rob me of a lot of money I had. So I'm in pain physically and emotionally. And my brother just died. And I miss my son, who I haven't seen in, frequently in almost 2 years. And I just hate everything. And I want to die. So take me to jail. I'll sign for time immediately, and I'll either hang myself in jail or in prison. But I just want to go away from this place. I want to be away from all this. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, take me away, please. And the cop just kind of looked at me with like, wasn't quite pity, but it was like, I can't explain it. But
I think compassion.
maybe compassion is a good word, but he
Sure.
also
Yeah.
he, almost like I had piqued his curiosity. And I think he thought maybe I was putting on a show. But I said, I'm serious. I want to go to jail and I'll confess to everything right now. You can start asking me questions. Just get me away from this car. So he goes, well, do you have anybody I can call to verify all this information? I go, you want to call somebody to verify? I just tried to kill myself? And he goes, no, but about your brother and everything else. I need to know. Just give it to me. And I go, well, you can call my mom, but she's so sick of hearing from the police. I'm sure she'll hang up on you. So I give him the number. He puts me in the car. He walks off. He calls. He's on the phone. So I know he's talking to her. And I figured she had said, take him to jail. That's where he belongs. He'll be safe. But he gets in, and all of a sudden this feeling came over me. And again, I changed my mind and I started, bartering with my higher power. I start praying. I hadn't prayed in a long time. And I say, God, like, if you're there, if you're listening, the universe, whatever's there, I don't want to do this anymore. And I certainly don't want to get locked up again. I'm so sick of being locked up. I'm sick of seeing judges and lawyers. If you somehow, by some divine miracle, get me out of the situation, if I can get a bond within the next 24 hours or something, I promise, I give my word, I swear, that I will dedicate my life to trying to get sober. And I will make a real, honest, true effort to try and stay sober. And for the first time, I said, I'm not going to say that I won't screw up or relapse this time, because I've said that 100 times. I'll never do it again. But I will really try this time. I say this with all sincere intentions. I will really try to be sober. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm praying and I'm praying, and I'm kind of overwhelmed with stress and emotion and anxiety. We pull up to this building, and I've been to the jail so many times. I knew exactly what it looked like. So I go, the fuck is this place? And he goes, this is the Southwest Vista Hospital. And I go, what are we doing here? And he goes, well, I'm taking you to detox and get a psych eval. And I go, so what do I got to do? Wait 72 hours and go to jail? And he goes, I'm not taking you to jail, man. I'm not charging you with anything. He goes, I don't think you need jail. I think you need help. He goes, but I want you to do something for me. I want you to get out, and I want you to call your mother, because she's really worried about you. She hasn't seen or heard from you in a really long time. And she, everything with your brother that's happened, you should be home. And he goes, and if I ever see you out here again like this, like if I see you in this condition doing what you were doing, he goes, not only will I take you to jail for every single little thing I can and charge you with every single little thing, I will make sure, I will personally see to it that they hang you, because I'm giving you a chance here to do the right thing, like do it this time. So I immediately started crying, and I just looked at him, and you'd think I would say thank you, but I just kept saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Sure, I get it.
And I know he knew I wasn't talking to him. I was just talking through him. I was lamenting, saying sorry to my brother, my mom, my son, everybody in my life that I had hurt. And he just looked at me and goes, it's going to be okay. You'll be okay. Just get yourself straight. So I go into detox and call my drug dealer the very next day. And then like just halfway through, I get this feeling and I go, what am I doing? And I hang up on him. And I go, I was supposed to call my mom. That's what I'm going to do. So I call my mom and she picked me up from detox, which was only 3 days. So it wasn't a real detox, but she took me into sober living immediately, and I started going to meetings, and that's basically how my recovery journey started. So,
okay. Wow.
I've had 2 relapses since then, but one of them was about a month and a half, and one of them was about a month. One of them was extremely insane, was out of control, like balls to the wall. But that was my last relapse, and I had never the one thing I had never done before was rehab. So I told my wife, I said, I'll go to rehab this time. I'm going to go to rehab. Done everything else. I've done meetings. I've done sober living. I've done correctional facilities. I've done detoxes, hospitals. I've done cold turkey at friends' houses. I've done this. I've done that. I've never done rehab. Sounds nice. It sounds cool. Maybe something good will come of it, because I was super against rehab for the longest time. But I finally went. And I just started, listening instead of talking so much. I figured like, if I can't learn anything if I have all the answers.
Yeah. Well, Flindt, I'm going to jump in. Well, Flindt runs into that a lot. Flindt, not only the work that we do here and working with individuals and families, but owning his own treatment facility and having gone through rehab himself as an opioid addict.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of familiarity that you're
there is. And Josh, I want to ask you, I want to say, why were you so against rehab?
I was just a stubborn egomaniac. I'm still an egomaniac, and I can still be a narcissist, obviously,
Sure.
But I'm working on that. But at that time, it was like I want to go to some rich, cushy, snobby, stuck-up place where all these, people who don't even know what desperation or poverty really is, bitch and moan about their problems. Like, give me, everybody there's just a pussy and a whiner, and I don't want to hear it. And, woe is me. My life sucked growing up. I had a bad childhood. That's why I'm on drugs, whatever excuse I could come up with. And so I think I just didn't, one of the breakthroughs I had while I was at rehab, I was talking to my counselor. I go, you know what my problem is? I have been so comfortable with chaos. Like, my entire life has centered around chaos, because my childhood was, to say the least, not an easy one growing up. And so I became accustomed to chaos. Like,
Sure.
My parents' marriage was really toxic and abusive. My parents were abusive to each other, to my brother and I. And so, like, my mother was also a very bad alcoholic, among other things. And I was just that behavior. Those environmental and external factors were what felt right to me. So whenever I had something good in my life, it didn't sit well with me. I didn't feel comfortable, and I had to shake things up and screw it up, which I think is what happened with the last, relapse. If just everything was going so well, I was like, screw this. So I figured this out in rehab. I said, I'm so used to chaos that if it's not chaotic or crazy in my life, I'm uncomfortable. And so I was against rehab because it sounded just too nice and too cushy. And
okay, because that's a question I ask everybody. It's a question I asked myself, because we've all been put in that position, no matter what our background is, no matter what our past trauma is, no matter whatever the fuck it was. Okay. Almost every addict says, no, I don't need, that's the end. I don't need rehab. I don't need to go to rehab.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to get at here is, I'm just not asking this of you. I ask this of everybody. What's the legitimate fucking reason why addicts don't want to go to rehab. Now I've got my ideas. One, we're deathly afraid of withdrawal symptoms. Are these people lying to us? Am I going to be able to get detoxed the right way? I mean, that's one side of it. I'm so afraid of, yes, I've lived this way for so long that now somebody's going to try to change me. All right. Or maybe I don't want to go because I don't like the whole 12-step thing. I don't like the God thing. But the bottom line here, I think, is this, because when you're talking about in the very beginning of this, the conservative people that so many, especially younger addicts, believe that these people are out there calling us scumbags and we're pieces of shit and we're all that. And yes, we've all got that to some degree. I don't think it's as bad as everybody thinks it is anymore, to be honest with you.
I've seen a huge swing in this, but again, because what look, man, and I'm not trying to jump up on anybody. I got 23 years of sobriety. I had a 25-year addiction, okay, to opiates, and 35 surgeries. I mean, I could go right down the line, okay, on the trauma piece of all of this. But now, because of what I do, the advocacy that we do here, that we promote, okay, I got to get a message across to these fucking lawmakers, okay, why we need to improve our treatment industry, why we need to improve, I mean, whether it's a private treatment center or a governmental treatment facility. I got to have answers from people so I can tell them these are the reasons why. Yeah. This is what's going to work. This is what's not going to work.
I think too, one of the things, this thought about chaos was more of a subconscious thing. This is something I was talking about therapist about in rehab, but I think the real long and short answer is I just didn't want to go. I knew I needed to go because I was shooting heroin using whatever water was available, be it, I didn't go as far as to use toilet water, but I've used rainwater before because I had no water, I knew I needed it. I'm intelligent enough to be like, yeah, I mean, of course I need it. I don't want to go because I like getting high. That's much more appealing and appeasing to me. And that whole thing over there doesn't sound like anything I want to be a part of.
Well, it's like some of my buddies said, I'm not going to go to rehab because they don't serve whiskey. I mean, I mean, there it is.
Well, they give you some Suboxone, so they do have.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Well, if it's a good one, they don't give it to you for very long.
No.
Yeah, no. I see. At the one I went to, they had two options. You could taper, or you could get on maintenance. The first time I attempted rehab, I left after a couple of days. This time, I was like, I'm going, and this is what I want to do. I was kind of dragged into going the very first time. When it was, I hate to say this, but it was by my girl. She wanted me to go. She wanted me to go both times, but the first time I didn't want to go. So the second time, I said, I'm going to go, get me in bed. And of course, everybody was chomping at the bit and freaking out because one wasn't available for like a week at the place I wanted to go. So they were like, what's going to happen between now and that week? And then the night before, I'm buying drugs from my drug dealer. And he goes, what are you doing tomorrow? And I go, I'm going to go to rehab. And he goes,
rehab. Yeah.
I go, I am going. I'm going. He goes, for real? And I go, yeah. And he goes, you're really going? I go, yeah. I gave my wife my word I would go. So I got to go. I'm big on my word. Got to go. And he goes, all right, man. Well, if you call me tomorrow, I'm not serving you then. And I go, okay, cool. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Good looking out. So I woke up, wasn't in a great mood, of course. And the closer we got to leaving, the more grouchy I was. But I went and I was coming off of fentanyl and just the worst sickness. I've done fentanyl before, but it's kind of like, anyway, I don't want to get into the war stories, but like, anyway, this was the sickest I've ever been. And I've been sick many times. I'll never forget. I was getting really, really good, almost pure fentanyl. And so two things, like I just knew I really, really wanted to try something completely different. I didn't know what it was while I was in rehab, but I also never wanted to experience this again. And I'm an all in or nothing kind of guy. So like, I want the best of everything, even if it's almost going to kill me.
Yep.
And I said to myself, there's no point in doing this again if I can't get the same stuff I was getting. And I don't ever want to feel this kind of sickness ever again. So, fuck this. And I had this epiphany while I was sitting there. Everything was going pretty good. I was about halfway through. And I think I was taking a shower one day and I got an email notification on my phone. It was a buddy of mine who's in a very successful band that, anyway, good friend of mine. We met on tour and we stayed in touch and his career was going really well. And he goes, we should work together. So I go, could you produce something? One of my, a couple of my songs. He goes, yeah, let's do it. So it hit me all of a sudden. I go, holy shit, I'm not a convict or a felon or a criminal or a junkie I am now, but like above all else and before all that, I'm a musician. I'm an artist. That's what I need to do. That is my purpose. It has always been my purpose. It has always been everything. It takes precedence over everything. I dare say music could be my recovery, and your recovery comes first. It's a selfish thing, so I can really dive into recovery intertwined with music, and I can make it my number one priority, and I can be a careered musician again. No matter what it takes, I will be a careered musician where I do nothing but music for a living again. First things first, I got to go to school because I never went to school, and I've always wanted to get a degree in music business. So I went, after I got out of rehab, I enrolled at a place called Dark Horse Institute with their music business online program. And I aced the course and graduated with a 4.0, which was really cool. And
Nice.
proud of myself.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I got, was one of, I probably shouldn't say this, but I was one of very few people, one of two out of all of us that got an internship and is now working.
There's
Right
nothing
on.
wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying that, man. I mean, come on. Come
I
on.
but I feel bad because there was a couple of other people that were trying to, I don't know. I feel kind of.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
You were talking about like ego or that you can be narcissistic, and I want to check you a little.
It's a big club, buddy.
Yeah, I want to
Okay.
check you a little bit on that. Is because the traits are narcissistic, not the whole individual. So you might have some narcissistic traits. That's okay. I do. Flindt does.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm pretty confident. I'm really good at this podcast thing, especially in the realm of recovery and addiction and sobriety. So, but that resonates with me, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like when I won an award for podcasting, I was like, hell yeah, I won an award. Did you receive a medal? No, it was just a digital thing. Whatever. It's like, come on, we got to kind of, those achievements are the things that you share that kind of pulls people through. I don't know how many people, Flindt, that we've met through this that are like, wow, I want to start a nonprofit now. Like, are you sure?
Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah.
But they do reach out to you and ask for you because you created something that was successful. So, like I say, hey, if you're not doing too much like name dropping or anything, there's nothing wrong with touting your accomplishments.
No, there's not. And you can use that in your recovery. To be in service for others. We're all trying to do something in our life that has importance and has meaning. And along that way, if you were doing something that is important and does have meaning to your life, you're going to run across people that are going to kind of jump on board with you. I don't know. This doesn't even matter to me, but I deal with politicians. I deal with law enforcement. I deal with big names around here. Okay. And then sure, there've been some people out there that go, oh, he thinks he's something now. Well, no, because they're just people like me. They take a crap in the morning like I do. Okay. But the reality is the more we're out there, the more we're public, the more we're going to get some notoriety. All right. And as long as that notoriety is used for a good purpose, man, bring it on.
The reason I told myself before I enrolled in school, I said, when I do this, I have to be the best at it. And I'm just very hard on myself. I'm my
Yeah.
my worst critic. But I said to myself, I graduated high school with a 3.9. And the only reason I didn't get a 4.0 is because I'm terrible at math. I got all A's, but a C minus in math, which really kind of screwed me. But I graduated high school early too, a couple of years early because I got bumped up. So I've always just been really driven. And I think that comes from like my stepfather, who was really, really hard on us. Like I said, he was extremely abusive, but that did something for me. It gave me drive and motivation. I always wanted to beat him. So I always had to be the best at everything.
Sure.
If we got bad grades, there was hell to pay. So like this time around, I said to myself, I really want to have a 4.0 if I can in this class. I want to graduate and with a 4.0, and I want to nail this internship. I think that in your recovery too, if you set goals and you communicate with your higher power, and you really like hone in on your thoughts and use neuroplasticity to rewire your brain, you can do whatever you want. And this is I don't know if you can see it, but this is my transcript. It says the 4.0 right there.
Oh,
there it is. Nice.
Right on.
Very
the only
nice.
reason I show that is because, like I said, I have a gratitude book. Obviously, like a lot of people in recovery too, but I also have a goal book, and I think that works really well with my personal recovery, because if I have goals and I have shit to do at all times, I'm distracted. I'm not freak. And a lot of those goals consist of good things too. Like, okay, I'm going to go to a meeting today because, my goal for today, one of my big goals is to go to a meeting today because I don't want to go to one today.
I get it.
Well, and it's funny you kind of mentioned that. So this morning I came to realization, it's not that I don't romanticize alcohol or using anymore, but the thought will come across my mind like, oh, I was at an event and people were drinking or whatever it was, and oh, my normal behavior before, and then I came to realization like, holy shit, I've been so damn busy that like the thought in there, hadn't even been there. Like even the opportunity to reject, as I say, when people go, give me a reason you're not drinking today. I'm like, I can't even think of a single damn good reason to ever do that again. Right. So it's interesting when we really get busy. And I find with people in recovery that really engage, like how you're doing, how Flindt did, years ago, and really where I'm hitting in my stride, like we can be really high achievers for sure.
Yep.
And I mean, for me personally too, like music is a free form of artistic expression. It's free fucking therapy. So like when I say I use music as my recovery, a big point of, it's a big proponent of that. Like when I'm having cravings or negative thoughts or bad feelings of whatever, if I'm thinking about using, I literally sit down and I start writing something on the piano or the guitar or whatever. I start recording something or I start writing lyrics down. And it's so cathartic and therapeutic that before I know it, and I'm really channeling and dialing in on those thoughts and trying to push them out, either in a metaphorical way or a literal way. Like I'll write songs about my addiction or using, or like how I feel now that I'm clean, or, thoughts of, I'll write down songs about, having cravings, whatever it is. And if you spend time doing it because you're expressing yourself, like I say, it's so therapeutic and cathartic. Like, most of the time I don't want to use anymore after that.
Right.
Like it's very rare. And I'm coming up on a year, and that's the longest amount of sobriety I've ever had in my life. I've never made.
Very nice.
I have my feeling, my cravings last maybe 10 seconds, maybe 20, and at the most, a minute sometimes, but they're very few and far between. And I'm so busy with everything. It's funny because one of my goals, my long-term goals, have you all heard of Recovery Unplugged?
Yes.
So I went up there and I've been speaking with them and in communication with them. One of my goals is to open up a treatment center someday, but instead of it being like music-based and solely music-based, I want it to also be creativity-based. So like, I want to have like a little film studio. I want to have a recording studio. I want to have a room where people can paint. I want it to be a place where people can make art to express themselves and really pour those feelings out. I want conventional therapy there as well. And I want, them to be able to do step work if they want, and meetings. And it'll be a conventional rehab in that sense, but I want to coordinate it and schedule it and have it be pretty intense so that people can get together in groups and record songs together, write songs, and make music together. And then I want there to be, like I say, a very small but and reasonable, but a film studio where people can make short films about either themselves or do monologues or whatever. And been speaking to quite a few people, and we're gonna see what happens. I've got a couple of cool things going on with that. But like for me, recording and writing songs, I write with a lot of artists now. And it's great because it keeps me busy, but it also really, really takes my cravings away. I did maintenance for a little while. I did do maintenance. I know there's been some mixed feelings about maintenance, but I only did it for about a month after I got out of treatment. I had them taper me, and then I was kind of freaking out a little bit. And then I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back Suboxone for a little bit and just see. My girl is not a very big supporter of maintenance, but her feeling is, well, as long as you're not out doing crazy criminal shit and causing a ruckus, and it's keeping you from being a real scumbag, then sure, why not?
But and we talk openly about that frequently on here, and as far as when it comes to harm reduction and things of that nature, and it's you're a young man. I mean, I don't want to, it's just that I would hate to have seen you strapped to a Suboxone or a methadone or,
Don't you think though, if somebody, I know somebody that's been on methadone, I've been an opiate addict for 20 years up until this last year. So, but don't you think, I know somebody who's been on methadone and just methadone for about 20 years, and, he's never relapsed on hard drugs. I mean, he's still, I guess he is still using an opiate or an opioid, but he's not out trying to score. He's got a job. He's had no trouble with the law ever since he went to methadone. It's something that has really worked for him. I need to know about your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you this. The reason why he's not gone back to criminal behavior to go out and get his drugs? Because he's guaranteed every day he can walk into that clinic and get it.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if he's starting to go through withdrawal symptoms and he can't get his methadone for 2 or 3 days, let me tell you something, my friend. He's going to do whatever it takes to get an opioid in his system. I was on methadone and it took me 2 years to get off of it.
Yeah.
And here's my thoughts on methadone. First of all, it is the most difficult drug of all time to ever come off of on your own. You will simply not be able to do it. We in the treatment field, we can't even take a methadone client into our treatment program because methadone is not allowed on a treatment center's property. It is run by the DEA and the federal government which we all know.
Mm-hmm.
What I had to do is I had to wean myself off, and it took 2 years, and I went down a milligram to 2 milligrams every 2 weeks. All right. Until there was no pink left in the bottle. And I was walking in there paying them $500 a month to basically drink water. All right. Till I told them they can shove it up their ass and keep the box. So now what we're also not talking about, or we're not informing people about, are the long-term health risks on methadone. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about the bowel issues, the constipation. We're not talking about the possible heart problems, the seizures, sleep disorder. I mean, the list is long and distinguished with this. And like we just said, if your friend or any other person out there using methadone, if you're out of town for the day or the weekend and you forget your methadone, you cannot walk into another clinic, whether it's in Texas, Philadelphia, Hawaii, Guam, I don't care where it is. You cannot walk in and get your dose, and you're screwed.
They just changed that. I found that out. See, I had thought about going back to methadone when I first came out of treatment. And it was between Suboxone or methadone. And I had been on methadone before, and you're right. It took me a month to recover. I had withdrawals for a month, and then it took me a whole nother month just to recover from that. And for about 6 months, I still didn't feel myself.
Right.
this last year, they said that they now have this thing, which is kind of crazy and scary, where if you go out of town and you can't take your dose with you, if you don't have take homes, you call ahead of time and they transfer paperwork to the office that's nearest to you that they are in cahoots with, and they can. So now people can literally travel and get their methadone, at least but what I'm saying, and I don't know, like me.
Well,
personally,
first of all, let me respond to that, because they've been doing that forever. But it takes an act of Congress, okay, to get that paper faxed over. It's not something that's done immediately. So if you're sitting out there 5, 6 hours, 8 hours into your withdrawals, okay, because they haven't faxed a piece of paper over yet, you're in trouble.
Yeah. And I know that it's I'm glad you brought that up. We hadn't talked about that, because like Florida, good luck.
Right.
California, good luck. I'm guessing Texas has gotten a little more, I don't want to say lax, but forward thinking. So it's really, I had read something on that the other day, and it's really state by state. And if it was a situation though, where he was from Texas coming to California, he's screwed. Right. You know what I'm saying? Or California, even to Texas, because they ain't going to do the work from here to transfer that paper. So it's kind of yes, it's true, but it's limited range. And like you were saying, much more, in advance notice per se, but it still comes with its constraints.
Correct.
And I don't, like I said, I honestly don't know how I feel about it. Everybody's recovery to me looks different, but like, what do you consider recovery? What do you consider sobriety? What do you consider? And I understand what you guys are saying. All I know is I don't actually know what my opinion is. I've never, because he's been, like I said, he's been, as far as he's told me too. I mean, he could also be lying and have had a couple of slip ups. I don't know, but seems like a pretty stand up guy. I know him pretty well, really well. So I don't think he would lie to me, but so it's always difficult. And he's asked me like, what do you think? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. You're taking methadone, so you're still getting high. You're just in a controlled environment. That's the difference. But like,
that's the difference.
If you're not out shooting, dope with dirty needles and robbing people and stealing, and that's good. But again, just because you're, an upper middle class person with the prescription from the doctor doesn't mean that you're not a drug addict. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, and I've always felt like if you're going to do maintenance, the end all be all objective has to be, when am I going to get off? When will I? And the only way to get ready for something, to make yourself ready for something is to just do it. You can't, nobody walks slowly into the cold lake. They just jump in.
Well, and I think you're bringing it to the valid point too. And Flindt really got me thinking this way, Josh, was the reality is no matter what, you're strapped to something. You know what I'm saying? Like, as your career expands, or if it was Flindt and I per se, and an amazing speaking engagement came up for us or something, like, we don't have to sit and worry about that thing.
Right.
First and foremost. And really, if you think about it, like, oh, I got to shift my dealer. Well, that's the same shit I used to do. Like, I would hit a new destination. Where's the closest bar that seems like my kind of bar, So I think it's kind of that too, and that psychologically you're really not escaping it. And a lot of people, from the experience and what Flindt shared, they don't ever really get too far away from that. So it's just kind of that hindrance of life that is still present. That, am I aligned with you? That seems to be one of the main.
You are. It's again, when you're strapped to whether it's either methadone or Suboxone, you're still, like we talk about us as when we were addicts. When we were addicts, we lived, like we say, in that 2-block radius, because that's what we knew. That was familiar to us. That was our territory. That's where our drug dealer was. That's where our so-called drug friends were. We don't step out of that box very often. And so when you are strapped to a medication like these two, it's basically the same thing. You're kind of stuck in that 2-block radius. And it's so important what Jason just said. Look, Josh, you've got it sounds like your career has taken off, or it's going, it's there, and I know you're not doing this, but why would anybody want to have to add that to the list of having something else to worry about? There's, to me, recovery and is about freedom. It's not about existing. There's I mean, there's a freedom here that I haven't experienced for an enormous long time, but now that I have, I don't want to give that up.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to worry about this crap anymore. The
Yeah.
only thing I have to worry about is making sure that I keep myself going in a straight line so I don't fall into that relapse trap. And because even after 23 years of sobriety, let me tell you something, my friend, I got to have foot surgery on a week from Thursday. All right. This is not going to be pleasant. Right. And again, that's going to be the 36th surgery that I'm going to have in my life. And I had to go pick up the medication. Right. And my doctors all know I'm in recovery. I get a few of these pills. It's not a big deal. But man, today, how they do it now is they call it in for you. You can't even take a script in. Right. 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 When I had to go pick that up, my hands got sweaty.
Yeah.
After 23 years, my hands got sweaty. And of course, the first thing I did is I grabbed those things, called my wife. I said, meet me at home. Here, they're yours.
Yeah.
Because even though I just got a few to get me through the first few days, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't lose my sobriety over it. Okay. I don't lose my recovery over it. This is a painful surgery, and I got to have something for that first 24 to 48 hours, you know? But God, there's just a freedom in not knowing I don't have to deal with that shit anymore.
You know, that's one of my biggest fears is sustaining an injury, because that's how all this started.
That's how it started with me too. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm always like, God, I like just, I'm so frightened by the day that I get injured or something happens.
Okay. I want you to think about it this way, buddy. Okay. I'm just going to ask you, how old are you?
I'm 34.
34. Okay. Yeah. You've got a lot of years left. All right. You've got a lot of years left. I'm 68. Trust me, both of you are going to reach a point. Okay. You're probably almost there. All right. That, something is going to go sideways. You are, as you get older, you're going to break a hip. This is going to go wrong. That's going to go wrong. Something's going to go wrong. And you are going to need to be in a hospital, have a surgical procedure, something that is going to cause you pain, and that more than likely I had 2 open heart surgeries. What? They're not going to give me an aspirin for that.
Yeah. Well, remember, I had that minor procedure, and reading the list, I'm like, you're putting me partially under with fentanyl. Like, I'm in recovery. This is freaking me the fuck out. Right. You're going to be fine. But
you're going to be fine. Trust me, you will, because I went through all the same feelings early in my recovery. My God, what do I do if I get in a car accident and the paramedic loads me up with morphine or fentanyl? But you always have a plan. You have that best friend, your spouse, your somebody, right, that knows what your plan is. And it's about being honest with yourself. Letting your doctors know, letting the nurses know, letting the dentists know. Everybody fucking knows. Well, because I'm a public figure as well. Okay. Everybody knows. But because of family, my wife that I've been married to for 44 years, the same woman went through all this bullshit with me. Okay. She has to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Has to be. And so she's not my enabler. She's not my mother. Okay. She's not any of those things, but this is a woman that will sit there and go, okay, here's the number of medication pills that you got. This is what we're going to give you. By the way, once those are done, that's it. And if I even suspect that you're using something after that, I'm going to be standing here with a pee cup. All right. And watch you pull it out and pee in the cup. Because I'm not ever going through that bullshit again. Right?
The first relapse I had after I had like my rock bottom moment, after, my girl was, she knew what it was. My girl had done drugs, hard drugs, and drank. She's in recovery also. And that was just kind of a coincidence. In fact, I was getting sober when I met her and she wasn't, but the only time she drank or did any drugs was the night I met her. We went out on a date and she got drunk at the restaurant. But when I kind of came clean, the next day or so and told her everything, we spent so much time together. She just hadn't had time to drink. And then she just goes, you know what? I think I'm going to do what you're doing, because I don't want to be the asshole that tempts you, but I also think that I need to make some changes in my life. And she was wild too. But anyway, she knew exactly what to look for. So the first time I relapsed, I'm the same way with my recovery. I have to be open and honest about everything. Even if I know it's going to hurt my feelings or hurt someone else's feelings, I still have to get everything out there so that everybody knows where I'm at, within reason. But I started lying to her and she was catching me. This is my first relapse. And she knew what the signs were. So she started doing the drug test thing, and I figured out how to beat the drug test.
Of course we do.
And then and then I went to rehab, but like I said, I left early and I said, okay, I got this. I can do this on my own. I was on Suboxone. Then I went to methadone, back to methadone. And then I just went back into a full-blown relapse months later. But that was my very last one. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm going to do rehab now. And I'm really going to do it. And I'm going to taper off the Suboxone, and I'm going to stay clean. And I'll be honest, I'll do everything I can. So she was like, I don't want you driving either, like at least by yourself for 6 months to a year. And I went, oof. But she was absolutely correct, and totally, it was reasonable for her to have that expectation of me, because when I drive by myself and I pass certain neighborhoods, the temptations, the
Absolutely.
feelings, the not reaching out to people, my sponsor or whoever it is, to be like, hey, so I just drove past my old neighborhood, the bad neighborhood that I used to go score in, and so I didn't drive, but another goal I set, I wanted to, when my wife became more comfortable and said, okay, I want the location on your phone, I want to know where you're at all times. I said, okay, reasonable too, and then we'll talk about you driving on your own again. So I made a couple more goals after school. I said, I'm going to do music full time as a career within the next 2 months. And I'm going to make money solely from music. That's how I'm going to support myself. And I'm going to get a car. And I just bought a new car like about a month ago. And I'm doing the music thing full time. Again,
Nice.
Setting goals, being honest, being open, and then, not being so resistant or what's the word? Like, before it would have been, no, I can do it on my own, and I don't need to be drug tested, and I don't need you knowing where I'm at all times. That's invasive, and I can, it's my life. I can do what I want. Whereas now I've just kind of surrendered to the whole thing and to everybody else around me, and I understand why nobody trusts me, or why everybody wants to know where I'm at, and why they want to. I mean, she wants to see and know everything, and not because she's afraid of me cheating on her with a woman.
It's because she loves you.
Yeah.
It's because they love us, and we can't figure that shit out. Okay. But they do. They love us. That's the reason.
Well, and I think in addition to that, and Flindt, you've talked about, so we won't rehash it, or even with myself, and that it's the accountability component to that rebuilding the trust within the relationship. It's like, yeah, all right, so I got to pee, and like, we'll make a big deal out of little shit. That's for sure. It's like, is it really that big of a deal to piss in a cup? Okay, here you go. Do you feel better? Yeah. Yeah.
I tell everybody I'll piss in a cup and stand in Macy's window and do it. All right. Because I wear that as a badge of honor right there.
The first time my wife asked me to pee in a cup, I go, why would you want me to pee in a cup? And she goes, why wouldn't you want to pee in a cup for me right now to make me feel better? And I go, why are you treating me like I'm a little kid? And she goes, why would she ask? It was pretty good. She goes, why does it feel like you feel like I'm interrogating you? And I go, because you are. And she goes, I'm not. I'm concerned about you. And I would just like it if you peed in this cup. So I did, and I failed. And that was the very first time. Not this last time. It was the time before. Right. And she goes, well, see, that's why you didn't want to do it. That's
right. Yeah. Right. They already know.
I was caught.
They already know. Those women are bright, man. They got us figured out.
Mr. Andersen.
Josh, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate you. This has been fun, a great conversation. Keep up the good work, man. I mean, just, I don't care if you're a year in, 5 years in, 20 plus years in, whatever it is. All right. We got our sobriety today, and we hope we keep it for tomorrow. Right.
Right there on the shirt.
Right. What is it?
One day at a time.
That's it. It's pretty simple stuff if we just let it be simple,
Sure.
and we don't make it too damn complicated, because we can turn chicken shit or chicken salad into chicken shit real fast, so
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Really do. It was a pleasure meeting you. Yeah.
It was a pleasure meeting the both of you, and thank you so much. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Josh, if people want to connect with you or find out more about what you're doing, what's the easiest way?
So Instagram is at Josh Datant, which is DATANT, or they can go to my website, which is joshdatant.com. I post stuff about my recovery, and the projects I'm involved in, all the artistic projects, music, film. Right. Instagram and my website are really good ways. Shoot me a follow.
All right,
buddy. Thank you, man. Take care.
Thank you so much, guys.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.